to delve deeper on. So let's take a look. May I now invite on stage Mr. Suresh Vidyanathan, Board Director and Advisor, Dr. Lavish Bhandari, President, CEPA, Ajay Bindru, CEO and Managing Partner, Beverly Hills Polo Club, Jayan Das Gupta, former Indian Ambassador, WTO. And to moderate this session, I request Karthika Sharma, Deputy Managing Editor, News9, to join us here on stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Sakshi. I really don't need to explain the topic. The topic is how to navigate the tariff, the tectonic tariffs. Now, the larger issue is that when someone as powerful as President Trump announces policies on X and then says that he's taking back his policies on X, it can make exciting time for journalists, but I'm sure it's not an exciting time for the policymakers. And if you look at the average jump in the American tariff, it's 15.4% since 1938. So the question is, how do we navigate this new world order of tariffs? So, Mr. Dasgupta, I'll just start with you. Is it an opportunity? Is it a world of uncertainty? Or is it a world of uncertainty which will come with opportunity?
That's a very interesting question. First of all, I must thank TV9 for inviting me to be a part of this panel. Coming to the question, I'm reminded of what President Trump said recently. He said, I may do it, I may not do it, I don't know what I'll do. So therein lies the problem, the conundrum, because the kind of tariffs that he has imposed, it's not sustainable. And that the first example was his pulling back on China. Of course, the deal that has been struck with China in exchange for China's lifting the curbs on rare earth, magnets and minerals, the US version says that 55% tariffs would still be imposed on China. But the details have not come out at all. So it's not really known. The second aspect of this issue is, it can be an opportunity for India, provided there is certainty about the tariffs remaining in place for the other countries.
But Mr. Dasgupta, you can certainly debate tariffs. You can have a position on tariffs. But how do you navigate the moodiness built into the declaration on tariffs when it comes to Trump? This much and that much. The moodiness, the uncertainty.
The problem is that, you are actually playing on a field where the goalposts are shifting continuously. And President Trump doesn't know what he will do next. So only the only certainty is that if the other tariffs against the other countries, especially China and countries which produce competitively on goods which may give an opportunity to India, then India will get an opportunity to increase its exports. But if those tariffs keep changing, and there is always a threat looming against India of getting slapped with tariffs, especially higher tariffs, especially if there is no conclusion to this bilateral trade agreement first tranche, and the 9th of July, India gets slapped with 26% tariffs, or they stay on. And in October, by October, there is no deal. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and there are a lot of ifs attached to this question.
Mr. Bhandari, what are the give and takes you think can happen between the United States of America and India? What are the sectors we are strong, and what are the sectors we may need to give in, because July is the date where we need to really come to terms with the new world order of tariffs?
Yeah. So I'll take a slightly different view, though I completely agree. It's going.
So you're going to be the devil's advocate here?
Sorry?
Are you going to be the devil's advocate?
I will be the devil's advocate. Because I think we are dealing with a maverick, and Mr. Trump loves to play the maverick. And that's where he gets his power from. Here you have a lot of very smart and very shrewd and cunning leaders across the globe who have many levers of strength. China being obviously one major one. How do you deal with it? The best solution is to have a maverick on the other side. And I think he's playing that role to the perfect. Right. Now, I think we should not underplay the fact that there is a difference between form and what he does. So he plays this game that, I'm going to go back, I don't know whether I'm going to go back or not, etc. But if you look at all of his actions, they've been fairly practical. So I would just place that on board till now.
Are you saying there is method to the madness?
There is a method to the madness. And actions and the effect, eventually the actions taken have been very practical. Negotiating with China was very practical. Extending the deadline was very practical. And of course he goes in with like a gorilla initially, and then he plays the practical card. That's the right way of negotiating. I mean, we all know that. So I think I will grant him more than what we have.
But there's a broad issue,
But let me go back to your point in this. Now, I completely agree that there is going to be a situation where the tariffs are going to keep on going up and down. We should also remember that barring the few months that Mr. Trump has been in Trump 2, the tariff rates in the United States for Indian and other global products was actually fairly low. Right? So an FTA with the United States compared to that period doesn't really give us that much. What it does give is the openness of Indian markets to the United States. So then immediate impact of an FTA, of a potential US-India FTA, is going to be greater openness in India. Now, as an economist, I would say that would be phenomenal for India, because India had, in a sense, reversed its policies of the 2010s and was getting more and more protectionist. So this will essentially be an opportunity for India to reverse its protectionist stance, be more open, and which will obviously require it to be more flexible.
Before I go into the details of, in this eroding multi-cultural or eroding global order in which supply chains are frayed, is this a result of economic nationalism of Trump, or rise of nativist politics, or, as you said, you're the devil's advocate, the world was having good fun at the expense of America?
So yes, obviously, the world was having a great time at the expense of the United States. Almost all countries were. A large number of countries, yes, a large number of countries had large terms of trade advantages against the United States. China, of course, is heralded as an example. India, Europe, a lot of developing countries had trade surpluses with the United States. And what were we doing? I'll just take the example of India. Our automobile sector, highly protected. The United States could never export to India. Why? Not because of any other reason. We protected our automobile sector. Now, so this is also a pushback. It is much more than Trump, because even Mr. Biden was moving towards similar policies. So we should recognize that this is a larger force. Trump or no Trump, the United States will get far more one-on-one engagements. And the FTA is like that. You're moving away from a multilateral engagement to a one-on-one engagement because the multilateral was not working for the United States.
So, Mr. Bindru, are we looking at more India-UAE type of partnerships, more bilaterals, more one-to-one associations?
I will take it to a little different, side of the conversation. It is not just the tariffs. Let's see where world has moved in last 6 months to a year. We used to see disruption in startups. When a startup era came in and we saw the disruption, and you have to have something different where.
But they are good disruptions. They are bad disruptions.
No, good disruptions. Okay. So what we are seeing in last 1 year. I've been in international trade for over 30 years. I've been running the global businesses for long time. I think what has happened in last 1 year is not just the tariff wars. It's the geopolitical war which is right now we are in, and then the tariff became a part of it. We have two countries, which $37 trillion economy is US, and then you have the China, which is $18 trillion. And then, India is coming up and others are coming up. So the war is between the large two economies, okay? And the shift is taking, because Mr. Trump said, we'll put 100% on China. So, what my colleague said, or panelist said, he's throwing something in the air and see what happens next, okay? So I think it's all about today how India is going to progress with the US and what kind of deal we are going to come out with, and how India is going to take, obviously, the advantage over that, because China and US is not going to remain same what it used to be, and US is pushing more nationalistic agenda. I think that is happening now, made in US.
I just like to, I completely agree with you. I just want to one clarification I want to make. There is the Chinese bulldozer in manufacturing. There was only one way India thought it could handle it, given the fact that it was misusing the WTO provisions for sure, right? So we thought we will become more and more protectionist. But in the process, we also did not create opportunities for America. And so did other countries.
No, but
so this pushback is actually natural.
Will India's manufacturing pick up now in this imbalance or the uncertainty that has been created?
Absolutely, because see, it is not just the US. We are seeing this whole nationalistic approach in every, sort of region in the world.
I would say protectionist, protectionist approach.
Correct. Okay, so we call it a protectionist, but then we never knew that America is going to push the manufacturing back. So I have set up many years back a factory across in Mexico. That time, US was pushing the cost, and now it is no more cost because the NAFTA, which is the American Mexico and
the basic problem is that America itself is dismantling the rule-based order which it created for everyone to follow. Mr. Vaidyanathan, I would just like to contextualize this conversation in the perspective of India and UAE. I think it's a very good, pairing. It's a very good example. Solid trade. There is a strategic relationship. There's a leadership investment between both countries. It has grown over a period of time. There is great trust, both at strategic level, the business level, and the political level, which really matter the most. So in this context, do you think that the India-UAE business relationship is the way forward in today's troubled times of tariffs?
Yeah, to answer your first question, is it a crisis or an opportunity? I think it's an opportunity for those who are well prepared. Nobody expected this to happen, but I think UAE and India have been quite well prepared with the agreements, and there is a template in place which can convert this into a great opportunity for the future. And also kind of reminded of the situation when COVID was there, when the origins became more protective. People kind of stocked more than what is required, which resulted in a big disruption of supplies into the markets, which were depending on some of these origins. Plus, complicate that with the supply chain issues as well, right? So now the situation is different in the sense that there is a significant impact on commercially on the landed cost of products at the markets, and also the need for the markets to look for other sources. So then you have the agreements like CEPA come into play, where I believe UAE has been much well prepared with the kind of framework that's already in place now with almost 27 countries, I believe.
Comprehensive economic partnership.
So and you can kind of imagine, I was just thinking of statistics. So UAE with a population of around 13-14 million, and India with about close to 1.4 billion. And UAE is still within the top 2 or 3 trading partners of India, which is quite a significant achievement, I think.
Okay. Mr. Dasgupta, we'll talk about the implication of this American unilateralism on the UAE's economy, but what happens to WTO now? Is it going to be like League of Nations 10 years from now?
I think the trends were very clear much before President Trump really came to power in his first stint, because the US had been moving away from the WTO in a sense. Of course, now at the current juncture, they have also stopped their contribution to the WTO pending a review. But in the Obama period, the US prevented new members from getting elevated to the appellate body. And by 2019, President Trump continued that during his first stint from 2016 to 20. So by 2019, December, the appellate body had been, it came to us complete, vacuum. There was no member left. And mind you, in the appellate body, there are 7 members, and 3 are required to hear an appeal. So the appellate body was finished off. The US since then has been saying that it will engage in reviving the appellate body and the WTO, subject to very deep-seated reforms. But it has not really, it is only paying lip service. It has not really shown its intent in earnest. So I think this is a period, this is a trough. Whether it will, come out of this trough and there will be another crest for multilateral trade, or it will go the same way as, let's say, to put it very bluntly, the UN.
Is multilateral the word or bilateral today?
Multilateralism is under threat.
I to you too?
The US current administration and the previous Democratic administration also, President Biden didn't do anything to revive the WTO, for that matter. And President Obama, for that, on that issue, he devoted his full attention to harvesting the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership. So the US has been moving away from multilateral trade for quite some time, irrespective of whether a Democrat or a Republican was at the helm. So that is one thing. The US has pulled out of the WHO, UNICEF, I'm not very sure what is the current status, UNESCO, and we all know that the UN itself has not really proved very effective. So multilateralism is under threat. Multilateral trade is under threat.
Okay, but Mr. Bindru, at the level of business, what should companies do? Earlier the word interdependence was very much celebrated. It was featured as a word, something to be emulated. Now it's all about doing everything at home. There is a paradigm shift in business that is happening, which is flowing from political ideologies. You can call it nativism, or you can give it any other word. It's about being self-reliant. So is it changing the nature of trade globally? And how do companies cope with that? Because they have been brought up in a different value system. The value system is changing.
I was reminded of something which the DG WTO said. China's trade with the US has come down very sharply. Of course, it is going into the US through other countries. But the DG WTO mentioned that there is a very serious risk of decoupling of these two largest traders. And that will, divide the world into two groups, which will perhaps, start enclosing themselves into a cocoon and not having relations, which is bad for international trade and for the growth of the world.
Okay.
So that is a serious threat.
Very quickly, because I'll be winding up the show, Mr. Bindru, from the perspective of companies, operations.
For the perspective of operations, we are today, what you asked, earlier question before. We are today looking at the local trade, which the governments are pushing and enhancing the local production. For argument's sake, we are in the UAE today. In the last 10 years, we have now more than 6 or 7 industrial zones. I still remember when we used to see Kizad, which is an Abu Dhabi industrial zone. It used to be empty, and I've seen it from 4 or 5 companies, and today you don't have any space there. Today you don't have the space in Dubai industrial zone. Today, so UAE, we have been talking here all the last 30 years, whatever we have been here. Oh, it's a great shipping hub, it's a great logistic hub. And today it is becoming an industrial hub. Because you have now, with this whole thing going on, you have got a lot of investors coming from all over the world, from China, from Vietnam, from Indonesia, to set up the factories here because there's a convenience. You have the free trade agreements going on with. So let's say India, India and UAE trade is going to be hitting $100 billion. Okay? So it's a convenience. So they will come, invest here, and take an advantage of that. And it's more going bilateral now, and obviously the national, rather having those regions around what we had earlier in many parts of the world.
So Mr. Bhandari, the nature of the supply chains are going to change.
Yeah.
Completely.
Absolutely. So 3 things. 1, WTO gave us great benefits to the world. No 2 things about it. A lot of it was, I keep on maintaining, because the US took hits on many different directions for many years. Why it did that is another matter. Second, now with this whole movement towards bilateral and what I call trade clubs, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. Volatility always means opportunity. We confuse the 2 things. But volatility always is opportunity, but the opportunities would be short term. So imagine a world where you're going to keep on having all kinds of churns happening year on year, and that's where not just companies, even governments will need to become far more agile. And there was conversation on how Dubai is very agile. I think that's something that the Indian government can learn from. So that is the second thing. The third part is, how are the value chains going to differ? Well, we forget that the biggest loser has been China. It's got this massive capacities that now it has to find third countries to trade from. I think Mr. Xi has harmed China so much. I hope that he learns back and goes back and learns from Mr. Deng and reverses his policies. But having said that, Dubai is now a great place because of its agility, because of its geographic presence, because a lot of possibilities of trade now start to happen with India. And last, most important, but this can only work when both companies and governments become far more agile.
I really run short of time. I would have loved to entertain more questions, but I personally feel that American economy is trying to do what the Chinese have done 20 years ago, which is manufacturing. I don't know where the American economy will be taken under the current dispensation, because their economy was in a high-end technology. And that's where China seems to be going. And the political leadership is primarily more invested in the Rust Belt politics, which is hard mortar and brick politics. So that's all on navigating tariffs. And I think the bottom line is that the crisis will definitely create more opportunities. Thank you. Thank you. And please be on the stage.
Kartika, please stay on. We'll have to honor our guests with the hampers that we have for them. gentlemen. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Next up, what does $100 billion mean for two rising economic giants? Well, it means trust for one, of course, in the ability of creating mutual value. It means ambition to grow, to capture new markets, and to deliver impact. And it means a stepping stone to greater heights as well. Let's unpack the economic crescendo that India and UAE are working towards achieving as part of the $100 billion vision.